Good morning, good afternoon, LinkedIn friends, Valley First Nation. Welcome to another episode of Tech Stack Reimagined. Today, talking about the reality of vibe coding your own CRM. How are we doing, Nico?
Doing good, doing really good. This topic in particular, just coming at quite a pivotal time. Um, but yeah, I'm doing very well, especially with the nice little data leak of Mythos that happened on Friday. So um, that's nice. I'm sure that I don't know when we're gonna get to see that, but I'm just glad about the description that was given and the fact that Dario is considering it to be like it's new, right? So if you guys think about the model releases, obviously OpenAI is like the worst at naming. So it's really difficult to tell sort of whether like 4 and 5 are that different, or like what's different about 4 to 5 in terms of the architecture, or like is it just an upgraded version, right? Whereas with Claude, you really do feel and understand the difference between Haiku, Sonnet, and Opus. There's a very, very clear distinction, especially when it comes to like coding, or even when it comes to complex reasoning work. You can very easily see the difference between all three models. If you work with the API, you very much understand the capabilities of all three and like what the outputs of all three look like. That having been said, excuse me, the leak from Anthropic is about their newest model, and the newest model has a new name, and the name is Mythos. And that means that it's very different from everything that came before it because it's a new name. It's not just Opus 4, 5 and Sonnet 5 or whatever, which is what I was expecting. I was certainly expecting just the fifth, the newest generation of those models. And that may still be the case. We may not see Mythos for quite some time. Essentially, the reaction to it was oddly, I'm not sure, like, I don't know the rationale behind these things. It's not making any sense. There's really no pattern to it outside of maybe just shorting certain market sectors for one reason or another. Because people, I guess, like the market woke up to Claude Code, right? Like what, a month ago, and immediately shorted software stocks altogether, right? Specifically CRM stocks. It's kind of odd to me. Then the Mythos leak happens, which, by the way, if you were thinking that this was like somebody hacked into Anthropic and managed to get this data, nope. Anthropic even admitted it was human error. Some person forgot to lock the door behind them when they left after doing certain blog updates.
Yeah, like draft email, not draft email, draft blog article.
Yep.
Right.
So that's the thing. It's like it was going to get announced sooner or later, like fairly soon, right? So it is, it's really just like a pre-announcement, if anything. But it's the commentary that Dario threw behind it by saying it's so much more advanced that they have to give it to security companies, like cybersecurity companies first before they can even remotely distribute it elsewhere, right? Um, and so all of a sudden, cybersecurity stocks tanked, and I'm really like, that's what's blowing. Like, it's I just don't understand it. I don't understand the mentality of the financial world where you have somebody saying we're going to impart the smartest thing ever created into security, into like digital security. You would think that that would make any digital security company now worth just an insane amount more than it would have been otherwise, because you now know that their level of security is about to go through the roof, right? But it went the other way. Like, I don't, it just didn't
Yeah,
make any sense. But yeah, in terms of overall, doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic because this is like it's clear as day what's happening, and like I've been working on these frameworks for like since December of 24, but like living through the dysfunction of software and SaaS inside of organizations since like 2010, right? Like,
Yeah.
and all of this, like all of the everything that did not make sense to me, like over 15 years, is now getting solved over the space of a few months, like including markets, right? Like,
Yep.
if like the transparency of what's happening, like stocks are tanking because it's not based on actual value being created. It's based on, are we certain and do we feel good about the direction of this company
Mhm.
in any given space? That's why like most investors or most like investment experts that I've heard, as far as like if you just want to make sure you're gonna get some return, like index funds, like go there. It's the market as a whole. You don't have to worry about which company because they're so fragile. Like when they can move like this, like once uncertainty leaks in, really that's all it takes. And when your confidence is based on feeling, like it doesn't take much to be like, oh shit, we better rethink this one, folks. And that's SaaS. Like
Right.
SaaS, that's what SaaS is. SaaS is about puffing yourself up so that you can get a bunch of venture capital to hopefully unicorn. And like the data behind whether or not that can actually happen is not good. The chances are not good. It's a lottery ticket. And while that's why I love listening to moonshots.
Mhm.
Obviously, it's people that live in that space can also paint some optimism around what's going on. They don't sugarcoat it. I
Nope.
It's hard to I could see why it's hard to relate to what they're saying. Like just go build your own company. Like it's like people can do that, which they can now, capability
Mhm.
wise with AI, but it's still like mindset of believing that any mere mortal human can do it. And that's why we're on shows like this to show you how you can. But like the opportunity is there. And this world has created this private capital that leads to innovation. And like it has a lot to do with why we are where we are. But when you can see what's happening with the markets and the reactions, and then people try to tie that to either the reasons why or defending that it'll bounce back. It always does. Like you're not paying attention then,
Right.
right? And this leads directly to this conversation happening on LinkedIn right now. And it's funny because I think HubSpot as a company is way past, like when they say like agentic customer platform, that's so far away from like the CRM like conversation and like just managing sources of data, right? Like if you're using a contact record, like building your system around that being a source of truth without any of the context involved that actually makes it a source of truth, like you're just doing it wrong. Like, and that's what's behind all these posts and what led to this today, or what probably coincided with what we were naturally gonna talk about. I'm gonna share this post, and there's like there's been like 100 of them in the past couple months, a lot like this one, right?
Hmm.
So everybody taking offense to just vibe coded a full HubSpot replacement in a weekend. Uh, LinkedIn right now is I replaced my CRM with AI agents. No code RevOps stack in 3 days. Goodbye HubSpot. Hello vibes. Meanwhile, in the real world, your vibe coded CRM doesn't stand. You should probably like move the quotes to CRM instead of vibe coded. Um,
Right.
doesn't understand lifecycle stages, overwrites good data with garbage, has zero governance, breaks the second sales rep, goes off script. The second a sales rep goes off script and absolutely folds under attribution or reporting pressure. I'm gonna continue reading, but commentary for each of these sections will be on this other tab, uh, like how to think about this. But the idea is like all of these true for every HubSpot implementation ever, whether it was vibe coded or not,
Hmm.
right? Like most HubSpot implementations suffer from these 5 things, like specifically, and it's more than 50% of them, right? So here's why these things fail. So he just makes that case, right? No data model discipline, no guardrails because you get bad data at scale. I
Hmm.
build all that. Well, guess what? Most HubSpot partners skip all that shit too. Most HubSpot implementations that are just onboarding sprints for 90 days miss all of this. And that's why people are coming back saying, I'm on my second or third partner, just give me some damn help to do HubSpot right. Like, and they're asking for it in different ways. Like, help us get the data model right, help us structure it, help us with architecture. Like, people are starting to understand what it takes to get this stuff
Hmm.
right. And those same people have AI in their hands to maybe not look for the third partner,
Right.
right? To maybe understand like, okay, what's next? If AI told me to ask for data architecture help, then maybe I can just ask AI to help build that out, right? And so what we're going to talk about today on show, definitely a lot of show, is we've obviously been talking about this for a long time.
Hmm.
And for like transparent reference, we're both pretty high level consultants and coaches that know what the hell we're doing and talking about when it comes to CRM. And even Nico, who's who's like at that level, this was not like a 1 or 2 day job, right? Like, and we've started talking about this a little bit. It's kind of like anybody can pick up Street Fighter and win a couple matches after a couple hours of playing,
Hmm.
right? But if you go to like the arcade that has a line of folks, or you go to like nationals, you're gonna get smoked, right? That's what AI is starting to feel like. Easy to pick up, but as soon as you want to start handling super complex use cases, right, that it takes some learning, it takes some skill,
Hmm.
right? So before, and shout out to Bill Barlas here, who like if you got these symptoms, they don't sound like a tooling issue at all. Uh, in my opinion, nails it in terms of what we're gonna hit here, and then I'll unleash Nico with his CRM. Right. So, uh, little decision framework, and let me put this in the chat. which, by the way, this was built like an hour ago after getting ready for the show. And please keep that in mind. Like, if you prevent people from vibe coding shit, like it prevents this kind of capability and you can't prevent it at the end of the day. So, build or buy, neither question matters until you understand the traps. The false binary, is it vibe coding or is it, impossible to do that? Neither is correct. You can absolutely you absolutely can build powerful custom AI native systems, but it takes real architecture, real security protocols, and real effort. The technology you choose matters far less than the thinking you bring to it. The same traps that plague enterprise CRM implementations will plague your custom build if you do not design around them intentionally. So, 12 traps. We'll go through a few of them. The leads trap, treating people as objects to process rather than humans on a journey. If you build custom CRMs, recreate this trap with cleaner UI. If your data model starts with leads and contacts as separate objects, you've already encoded dehumanization into your architecture. No amount of AI polish will fix a broken premise. If you buy enterprise platforms, reinforce this with MQL, SQL pipelines, lead scoring, and lifecycle stages that describe what you want from people, not what they are experiencing. So the question to ask, does your data model describe people as humans on a journey or as objects in a pipeline? Let's look for another good one here. Some operations traps. The measurement trap, measuring what is easy instead of what matters. If you build custom dashboards, make it tempting to measure everything. More data points do not equal better decisions. If your custom CRM has 47 charts on the homepage, you are in this trap. If you buy platform ship with default reports optimized for vanity metrics, the out of the box dashboard tracks activity volume, not value created. So I ask this question, can you articulate the three metrics that actually indicate whether you are creating value for the people you serve? The SaaS trap, over customizing software to match broken processes. If you build, this is the trap vibe coders think they are escaping, but building custom software to replicate your broken processes is the same trap with a higher engineering bill. The process needs to change first. And if you buy every custom object, custom workflow, and integration that exists to make the platform match how you currently work is a symptom. Adapt process to platform, not platform to process. Are you designing for how work should flow or encoding how it currently stumbles? And then let me look for my favorite one. The managed services trap, outsourcing thinking, not just execution. If you build hiring an AI agent framework or no code agency to build your custom CRM, is this trap wearing a different hat? If you cannot explain your own data model, you do not own your system. And if you buy platform agencies, manage your instance, you pay monthly for someone else to understand your own business processes. When they leave, the knowledge walks out with them. Or on the converse, you tell them that somehow they've got to create value for you inside of 3 weeks. And we're not allowed to have discovery conversations to learn how your business works. And you're just setting everyone up for failure. So if your team can't explain your system architecture to a new hire without calling a vendor, you got to solve for that. So 12 traps here, a little quick test. Like, can you draw your data model on a whiteboard inside of 5 minutes? If not, might be too complex or you don't know enough about it. Can you explain who sees what and why? Can you describe how value flows through your system? And can you change it without fear? This this might be the biggest benefit to what we're talking about today, right? And the
Mhm.
reason it is so powerful to have AI in the hands of folks that are in the shit every day. Like they're the ones that got to get work done. They got to create value no matter what. And when they're unlocked to do this with AI as like the safety net, to be like, hey, let's make it look like this real quick. Oh, it's not working. Okay, let's go back to the old thing. We're cool. Let's, you know, so much of the SaaS industry and tech debt, right, are changes that get deferred because we might break something because we built a bunch of workarounds in the first place. And now we don't know how anything works. And this power in the hands of the people in process has been so powerful to watch and understand that it's the immeasurable part of why, if you're telling people that they're not allowed to solve their own problems, it's just not, you're not going to win that argument, right? As soon as they figure out that they can solve their own problems, anybody suggesting they can't is out. Like either out from like a we're done working with you, or we might be stuck in this contract, but I don't trust you at all anymore. And we might as well just count down the days until we move on. Um, so any of that resonate, sir?
Um, a lot of it does, and it's really interesting to me because I find myself on the other side of the wall, um, and I find myself there on purpose. So what I mean by that is, to your point, I'm definitely somebody who has some background experience in working on the CRM, both from client side and from admin side, and because of that, yes, definitely know the pitfalls both of platform and also of organization. The number one thing that I've noticed in all of the time of servicing clients and whatnot is just that factor of, hey, it's really difficult to onboard people. It's really difficult to get them to understand the platform. We got to do trainings. We have to spend, 2 hour sessions. Hopefully everybody's paying attention. Hopefully everybody remembers everything. No one's really going back to the training material. So in other words, when it came to doing that, to attempting to get a business to change its process for the better, as opposed to having to adopt some software platform to make it better, I think that that's been a negative in the past because the software couldn't solve the problem, the process problem. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think the software now solves the process issue. And I think the software now makes up for the human inaccuracy, and it makes up for the human laziness, and it makes up for the human, I don't know, fallacies that go on. Um, it all depends on how you built that platform. Right?
Mhm.
And so to the, like not everybody is, we've talked about this, not everybody is like even at our level, which is not bragging in any way whatsoever, just saying like as much stuff as we know. Um, I agree with that post when it comes to somebody who has just stumbled onto Claude, just stumbled into vibe coding, and you know, from maybe a not CRM technical perspective, uh, is trying to do it. Okay, then I agree because again, you don't necessarily have the background knowledge that will keep you from making the same systemic mistakes So you'll end up building another CRM platform that will almost inevitably inherit the same problems that other platforms have because you don't necessarily know what to avoid. You don't know what you don't know, right? Um, in my case, I think it's very different. I think in our case, it's very different because we build things differently. We understand that software has to evolve and that it's not human first anymore. It's agent first now. And so if you're building a platform that's agent first, it is amazingly human intuitive.
Hmm.
I know how odd that might sound, but the reason and it's funny because I excuse me, had a conversation with my brother yesterday and we kind of came to the same conclusion when it comes to labor getting replaced and what types of labor are going to get replaced. And Dario just sort of put together another list of like top jobs, not him, but they did another study and put together a list of like top jobs that'll be affected by it and all that. And of course, manual labor and city workers and stuff like that, electricians and whatnot, still way at the top of that list of like, yeah, not going to get replaced for a while, right? Which also has to do with robotics and things more than anything else. But when you ask the AI system why it will take so long, it's not the dexterity of the hand, it's not the physical capability of the machine, it's not the like inability to see certain things. It's this strange ability to adapt to random situation. And when I dug a little bit further and I'm like, well, what exactly are you talking about? Well, it talked about the same things that humans run into that they complain about all the time, which is to say that if you go to one city and you go to one city sewer and the way that one city sewer drain works in section A, B, and you go to another city and you go to that city sewer and you go to that city drain in section A, B of that city, they're not the same. They're done totally differently. They have a completely different system. If you go to the next city, even different from the other two cities. Go to the next city, different from the other three guys. Why? Oh, you got different people working in different cities. They all have their own method of getting it done. So it's just completely customized to the city. So of course you're not going to be able to get one robot to understand how all 50 states and all the cities in every state, like how all of that stuff functions. No, it's going to take a minute, right? That's the only reason. It's not like, oh, the work is impossible. They couldn't possibly. No, they can. They definitely can. It's just that the job itself has become over complicated. And so I've watched this
Sounds
same
familiar.
thing sort of like, yeah, looking back on the platform, I'm like, huh, well, that seems what's happening with like software platforms, which is make them more and more complicated to the point where you have to reach out for extra help in order to understand the overtly complex system that you're having to deal with. Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, at the end of the
And
day, if
yeah,
to me, what
this
you're
is like,
saying makes perfect sense. Like,
right. And this is the full circle, right? This SaaS apocalypse is actually the great simplification, something I'm going to see if that starts to hit. Because basically, and it's like what's been happening this year, driven by Anthropic. When Anthropic dropped MCP in December of 24, they basically said, fuck all that. You guys don't get to decide how your APIs work and how all your systems work. And because of that complexity, we got to build iPaaS and we got to have integrators from both sides. We can't just have integrators in the middle. We got to have people that know both systems because they're so dramatically different. We've got to figure out how they're going to talk to each other. It's like, nope. Yeah, we're solving that like stat. Otherwise, AI, yeah, they can go, read all of the, API docs and all that, but it's when every system, like every city or every human is deciding, no, this is how we think it should work, right? And when the DNA of our software comes from like some very specific vertical, use case, and then we're like, oh, there's a market for this. Let's build it for everybody.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. It and there's so that's why we have 17,000, apps on the MarTech map, right? Because that's like it either has come from there or it goes the other way. It's like, let's build our own like, nonprofit specific version of CRMs. And then, oh wait, but it's only based on our knowledge of nonprofits. It's not based on like 100 nonprofits and how they work. So the next one's like, oh yeah, we needed to do this. It can't work,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So let's integrate the real shit into the right. And that's where when you treat these systems, like if HubSpot is configured as records to process, replace HubSpot with Salesforce or NetSuite or any system, even the way your business operates, right? When people operate like that, they will be replaced by AI who can definitely manage records to process at scale with faster and more consistency than any human ever has. Now, when your system is designed to require, which it naturally is, and that's the difference. Like, if you don't see this about the system, it means your humans are doing way more work than they should be because
Mhm.
all the context management lands on them because they don't have a system that can help manage it at all. Right.
Right.
So these are the humans that it's not in their job description to manage 6 different systems, but they know that's where all the data is to answer the question they just got from the customer.
Mhm.
Right. And it's like the human context piece of that like sewer situation where a human can go and like, oh, I was expecting something, but it looks just like this other time that I had to do it, but not exactly because that time was like this and this time was like that. And now immediately, like our brains can put that together. Like that's human context and judgment, right? That
Right.
we can build into these systems, but it requires a level of complete visibility to everything that's going on that you can get to, but you have to ask these systems to do that for you.
Mhm.
And that's where agents working with humans, when you can build it out for that experience, it's the difference between like, how are you thinking about this? Right? Are you trying to build a unified platform that goes across the business and like, including humans? Or are you cool with just, building in like point solutions everywhere, right? Narrow data wrappers, AI can easily replicate, super UI heavy, manual data entry, super focused on reports and
Mhm.
all the seat based stuff, right? That's gone. It's going away. And so much of this like is inflated cost of SaaS, right?
It
And
is.
we're seeing it. And we're seeing it. And it's like basically simplification means all this stuff is gone,
And
right?
if you guys think that like so we're borrowing so like what we do, what Proven Labs does, right? Um what we do is we basically do that I mean, we throw that middle finger up to the SaaS industry, right? It's kind of the purpose and the point of what we do, and it's everything that Chris was just talking about in terms of we solve that problem. We build that custom platform to solve the problem that you're having, right? And then you own the platform. You take it, you do what you want with it. We're not in the business of trying to tie you down with monthly payments, right? We're in the business of trying to solve problems, make money by solving problems. That's the last time I heard when it came to commerce, right? That's the number one way to make money is to solve problems, right? So that's what we're focused on doing. And to your point, I was just talking to my wife about this morning. Um, what's happening to SaaS and this whole SaaS apocalypse thing, right? You've got the release of Claude that tanked the CRM market and software market in general, and now you have this Mythos leak, and that's starting to tank you know the market around IT and all that kind of stuff. There's something that you guys have to really keep in mind. One, the way in which the great majority of corporations that are traded online, they are not PBCs, they are just C corps, just regular corporations. They are legally beholden to make more money. It is their legal obligation to the stockholders to make more money. That's the only obligation they have. They don't have any sort of like ethical obligation at all. That's why companies do the most unethical things to make money. PBCs are different. Public benefit corporations are different. They cannot exceed one for the other. They cannot exceed research for the sake of monetary gain, and they cannot forsake monetary gain simply to advance research. Works basically to keep you basically take a nonprofit organization, make it profitable while still maintaining the capability of keeping the money from controlling the research and the release of product. So that being the case, realistically, what's happening is the value of what these companies have placed on these platforms is becoming normalized. The best way to look at this is Louis Vuitton. See the average Louis Vuitton bag, I think it's like minimum $1,500, $1,600. Last I checked, maybe it's $2,000 now. Who knows? Doesn't matter. If you actually research what the material cost and time and effort cost is for that bag, just in general, a few $100s, maybe $500. So you are paying 3 times the cost of what it takes to make the bag because it has the name Louis Vuitton on it. That's it, right? What is it that those companies like try to put the lockdown on the most? Knockoff brands. Well, if Louis Vuitton sells for $1,500, the Louis Vuitton knockoff sells for $500, which is what you're supposed to sell it for and still make a profit. You're just not making an obscene profit, right? So the whole charge per the seat and the whole we're going to do a subscription thing, that's a way for companies, trust me because I know now, to be able to play the odds just like a casino and say, well, odds are based on usage. Yeah, we'll give you, whatever it is. You got to pay for average company, whatever, 15, 20, 30 seats, right? And we know that even though you're paying for that, the amount of usage from those seats is so low that you are essentially maybe covering the costs for the actual cost for 5 or 6 people, and you're just throwing the money away on everybody else. Right? Because how often is a sales rep in platform? How much time are they spending in platform every day? Isn't the goal to get them to not spend time in platform? But you still have to buy a seat for them. But they're not sitting in platform all day. You see what's happening here, folks? Do you understand where I'm going with this? Right? You're getting charged for things that aren't actually happening, and you're paying for stuff. This is the clay game. Like all of these software companies have managed to do this 80-20 game where you use maybe 20% of the platform and pay 80% for nothing. Right? So of the cost that you're paying to these guys, who knows how little you are using of it. Right? A lot of these companies, the way that they paywall their features, they'll paywall the most important feature behind a gate that holds, I don't know, whatever, 30, 40 other features that would be useful for another company, right? But it's not useful for yours. But you have to pay the extra anyway because you need the 2 or 3 that one gets. Instead of, I don't know, talking to the company and saying like, hey, can we just get these 2 or 3? And then what happens? Oh no, we can't do that. We don't have that. We don't have that as an offering. Really? Why not? Why don't you just you know exactly what the usage cost is for that thing. Why don't you just break that off and do it for like this particular customer? You own the business. No one said you had to offer that as an everyday product, right? But like even that doesn't happen with SaaS. So yeah, I think that day is over. And I think the day of customization has kicked down the door and said, fuck you to all of this standardized stuff. We have to buy your platform. We have to dance to your tune. We have to this, that, and the other. And yeah, I think it's going to be fun times, man, in the next, year to 2 years. I know that even before Mythos drops, like if you guys have used, really, like if you've used the last edition of Codex from GPT, like that's some nice stuff. They're all getting there. Is my point on that. I'm not saying that like, oh my gosh, it's so good that I'm swear by it. It won't matter. It's getting to the point where it won't matter. By like July, it won't matter what vibe code, it won't matter what platform you're using. By December, it absolutely won't matter. Like it really won't matter at that point. Like by July, let's put it this way: all the people that were complaining about like, oh, security loopholes, security this, security that, there are I don't know how many plugins that run swarms of agents to go look at your platform, go look at every possible security loophole. They go check it based on you can do it based on different like certifications, like SOC certifications, stuff like that. It's utterly amazing how much like I've spent. I don't know how much token usage just on security stuff, like just on reviews and lockdowns and all that kind of thing. um it's wonderful because again you don't know what you don't know, but you have people in IT developing security plugins for Claude Code. All you guys that like think that the vibe coders are never going to get anywhere, your your fellow brethren are developing against you, you could say, right? Because they don't care. They'd rather see the awesome ideas that are coming out of everybody's heads right now than to sit there and try to hoard the recipe to themselves and play nana nana boo boo. You're never gonna get to where I'm at because I'm just gonna keep the intelligence from you.
Yeah, they're developing with the tailwind, right? Like, and this is why I love listening to moonshots. And if you can pick, if you're listening to this outside of our shows, of course, but I mean, give credit where credit is due. Like, they do the work to talk about stories and news, like, in a way that is highly relevant and matters. And even if, like, for me, I don't always like, definitely don't like talking about the VC game and all that stuff and all that capital.
Mhm.
But when you know that these people and their positions drive, they just drive how companies work and what's being invested in and things like that. And something that from the latest episode is the concept of like where Dave Blunden's on there and he's can see 50 companies, right? And when somebody like that who's hyper successful just switches on a dime how 50 companies manage the business in a way like this, where what's happened over the last few months has switched from, 20% of token usage and 80% of human hours and human effort is switching to 80% tokens and 20% human. And one, if you're not one of those humans that's in the 20%, like get there, which anybody can do. Just start learning how AI works and you can get there. Because a human that can help the tokens that are the 80% make them work 1% better, be 1% more valuable. Those are the humans that are going to be very high value. But businesses from that perspective that don't switch to that model and make it about if you're not using tokens, you're not doing your job, something must be wrong here. You're going to fall behind, and you already are falling behind. And you will need tools that serve that. So if the
Mhm.
software that you're using, even if it has AI, if it's not going to tell you about token usage and the billing model is not based on usage, that doesn't fit with the way you need to manage your business. So that's where I've been for a while. Again, this is such a complex situation. I don't know how anything other than AI solves it for a company like HubSpot, but I would not be surprised if by the end of 26, when they see like HubSpot's paying attention to all this too, and if it's really an agenting customer platform, they're doing everything in their power to figure out how to get to usage based everything for
Mhm.
pricing and do it without tanking their stock,
Right.
basically,
Right.
right? Because there are a ton of contracts that say this is how we're going to charge you. And they've got to play this dance. And this is why legacy companies are in this tough spot because they got to serve other legacy companies that haven't switched their business models and are expecting and are planned out to like 2028 as if nothing's going to change or licensing and how we manage finances for a business, right?
Mhm.
Both of those are in this like, oh, catch 22 situation where anybody that's just building businesses outside of this whole model can just blast off like without slowing down at all. And
Right.
that's where, I mean, a big part of our goal this year, and I've been having a lot of conversations with Ryan Ginsburg and like, and some others in the collective. It's just like at some point in the coming months, like this summer, there's going to be a switch where leadership teams realize how important the shift to AI native everything is. And they're going to start asking for that instead of, hey, come fix our HubSpot. Hey, come fix our Salesforce. Come fix our CRM, marketing automation, whatever it is. Like, and if you're like making your money based on solving software specific problems, like it's not going to work out for you. You got to figure out how to transition as well and know that you might be able to get paid for that still, but leaders more and more will not be able to avoid this narrative coming from boards that are continuing to pound on them that say, what's your AI plan? The AI plan is starting to become crystal clear for what it could and should be for a business. Now it's about leaders like making it make sense for themselves. Like, how do we go from here to there? It's very clear what there is in terms of tokens and usage based and AI native infrastructure.
Mhm.
How do we change to that as quickly as that's what they're going to figure out? Because everybody's working on this specific problem right now. Like
Right.
the frontier labs are starting to work with specific organizations to help deliver AI into enterprise orgs. It's gonna get figured out, right? And when it does, if your software or consulting or coaching model doesn't fit into that, like come on and join Value First Collective so we can help you get into that. Okay. That's don't sit on the sidelines here. Like it's never
No.
been easier to build business and build success as an individual in this moment, right? It's 100% mindset.
It really is. And that's what I love about like what we do for everybody that we work with is just the fact that like you are just like learning all the time. Like everything really like everything that we do, you are just learning what I wouldn't say like I don't know. Again, like not trying to toot horns or anything like that. Um, but you're learning directly from us. So everybody that's like, oh, how do I get on the same level as you guys? Just hang out. just hang out. Like you don't have to like pay us for our advice. There's no like, I mean, if you want to sign up for courses, then we have courses. But otherwise, it's like we have office hours that you can come be a part of. We have a Slack that you can come be a part of. We have a whole community that you can come be a part of. And again, you will definitely pick up whatever it is that you're looking to learn very quickly. Um, the amount of people that we've had just walk away from office hours with, just heads exploded and come back with like, yeah, so, I heard you guys talking about this. And so I built this thing and I started doing
Oh
this.
man,
Right.
I love it.
And again,
That's
these
so
aren't
cool.
like, you know, part of the problem that I have with the posts about vibe coding are that people are just under the assumption that like, oh, um, they vibe coded this, so they're going to try to like sell it and mass market and all that kind of stuff. Trust me when I say that, like, there's just a lot of like pressure in general behind doing that that will prevent you from doing that or like trying to do that. Like, you will definitely sweat bullets for quite some time before you realize, like, hey, you know what? I want to be chained to my desk 24/7 answering help tickets about whatever might be going wrong with the system that I built, right? Outside of like security issues and all that kind of stuff. Um, so it's different, right? Running a software company is different than just building a piece of software that you use. But that's the magic that I'm seeing all the time is people who are building their software solution that they need themselves personally. So there isn't this like massive like a risk of exposure or something like that because thousands of people are using it or whatever. It's just one person trying to solve the problem that they've got. Like that's it, right? So
Yep.
I'm all about it. Man. Honestly, like
Are you ready to show this thing?
yeah, yeah.
All right, let's do it.
So like to the point of like everything that we've been talking about and like the whole vibe coding your own CRM thing. Um, I've done just that, right? As you guys would expect. Um, we need a CRM for our business. I have options. I can go to any other big box CRM company and try to find something that I'm going to like. And I can tell you right now, I won't. I'm not going to find any of them that I like because there's not going to be a single one where I log in and this is my screen. Not a single one of them. All of them, I'm going to log in, and there's going to be some, shit dashboard that tries to greet me and show me some rundown, and I have that if I want it. Got an overview I can open up, look at some stuff, and basically have like my past, chat conversations and stuff. But that's it. That's all I have. I don't need anything else. When I come into my CRM, I should be able to just talk to my CRM and find out what's going on, right? Or like MCP connect to my CRM and find out what's going on. I should be able to like naturally, I should be able to natural language work with my CRM so that I don't feel like it's work to do anything with it, right? Um, clients have questions all the time in terms of like, oh, well, how do I use the system? Like, what do I do? Um, where do I go to find certain things or whatever it might be? It's like, yeah, totally understandable, right? But if you have a system that you can use that adapts to what you want to do, adapts to how you want things to be, adapts to um, the way that you want to view things, then it's completely different, right? So the first, of course, live testing is awesome. Um, First time I've live tested this, but I just want to see how well it works. What's the difference between this CRM and every other CRM? Now, this isn't for everybody. And the way that ours is locked down is that like the control that you're going to see is admin only control. Um, Other members would not be able to get access to this kind of stuff unless I don't know what, but they would get like lower level AI capabilities and functions. But so far, you can very easily do things like ask for forms that you want to have created, right? So you can just say, Hey, bud, putting a new campaign together and I need a new bottom of funnel form. Can you go ahead and throw that together for me? Search through the datas, build the form. What's the campaign about? What kind of info do you want to collect? Campaign is for a trade show that we're going to. And so we want to collect BOFU type information from people based on what type of software issues they're having, whether or not they need a full stack solution or they need something that's a whole platform, or if they're looking for something that's just a simple web application or a mobile application. And we're pretty much targeting, SMBs, startups, people who need the software solution but don't want to have to pay out the nose for it. Definitely want to collect budget, timeline, and specific pain points for sure. It's always nice to have like the suggestions, right, when it comes to creating forms, so that you don't have to like think about, oh man, did I get all the information that I need to get out of that? So we got core contact info, then we got some qualification questions that cover it. Yeah. Yeah, that'll do, man. Go ahead and knock that out. Crisp always getting in my way. I don't know why. Well, and because my Whisper application is not native to my machine, is the only reason why it's not able to. No, you definitely have that enabled. Double check, man. I'm really sure you have forms enabled. No. See, I'm telling you, Crisp like cuts in. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Double check that. I'm really sure you have that enabled. Always gotta make the wizards look bad now, or make me look bad in front of the wizard.
I think at the heart of this is like the reason it's different is like HubSpot has now become a quote unquote agentic customer platform in name only, in terms of how well the agents work, how much has to be set up. Like you still need humans using the CRM first and foremost to make everything else work, right? And while it is possible to make it so that all your context naturally comes together and is managed by AI, but it's a lot of work to get there, and most of it is not conversational, right? It's configuration and building and developing, and the closest you get to conversational is having a transcript from an admin talking to a user about what you want, and then the admin using AI to figure out what the specs need to be, and then use the MCP to build it in HubSpot, right? If that part of HubSpot can handle MCP building, right? But to build from the start of serving AI and making it conversational for the human, like no legacy platform can just automatically can switch to that, because they've got 300,000 customers already paying to do it the old way. So they can't just switch your platform, although HubSpot certainly pushes those boundaries sometimes with some of the updates that they make. But it's a constant game of balance. Like they know, like so many people inside know where they need to be going. They're already building towards it. But then when hear them also say like customers are 1 or 2 years away from understanding what the hell's going on when it comes to AI, right? Like you can't, again, that's why it's the legacy companies have a challenge on their hands.
Right. That's what I'm looking forward to the most is, so essentially like the only thing that's holding this back realistically is it might be on the front end. It might just not be wired from front end to back end in terms of the permissions, but let's Can you create a customer lifetime value report for me? That is like I don't know what's the best way to show that. Let's say bar chart, I suppose. This is the one thing I'm looking forward to is that the way this platform is built is that this this agent built this platform, right? So um it's not like the platform got built and then the agent was woven into it, right? It's really odd uh to frame it, but at any rate, the point being that like the agent understands how to manipulate every aspect of the CRM, right? That being said, it really is just a matter of like me allowing it permissions instead of like having to worry about like API access. Realistically, now all I have to worry about is MCP access, right? And whether or not how to gate that and how to, gate the role permission will equal what, API access the uh, agent will allow for that particular user, right? Um, so you get rid of almost pretty much get rid of the idea behind like needing to create tokens, right? You just have to go ahead and connect to the CRM, and whatever your role and permissions level is in the CRM is what you automatically have access to be able to do with the agent, right? Let me see. Should I use the top end customers? Yeah, time period. We already have filters on the table, but let's go ahead and default to 30 days. Um, Definitely want to see top customers as like a filtering method, and let's go with total revenue, like you say, simplest to start with.
And it'd be cool for you to show your table or the table that Aries made in response to that post. It's gonna be
Oh
hard
yeah,
to show
yeah.
all that, but like basically, I mean, at this point, you could show AI a post like the post that we showed at the beginning. And be like, hey, can you build for that? Like build some stuff to answer these questions that everybody's saying we can't do. Or or do a research with Gemini. Like, can you look at all the conversations around vibe coding and CRM, pros and cons, and create a research report, and then give that research report to Claude 4.6 that has all your business knowledge in it. Be like, can you build out a CRM for us that
Based on
avoids all of these traps? Like,
let's see, the you're talking about the Claude conversation about
yeah, you sent me. I can pull it up too.
yeah, here we go.
The, the table.
So this was uh from the LinkedIn post that we were looking at yesterday. And so what I decided to do is, since I'm already working with my agent Aries and building out the CRM with her, I thought it would be interesting. And Chris said the same. Chris thought it would be a great idea to basically ask Aries, hey, based on this person's post, like, what do you think? What's your opinion about it based on what they said, and whether or not what we're doing aligns with it, or is actually missing anything related to it, right? And it's really interesting. The answer was interesting, but it's very much what I expected, which is that, again, I think if you're vibe coding something like this, and you don't have any prior like under the hood experience, yes, you're going to run into all of the things that were listed as complaints. But I think that if you have background experience, then you're filling in, like you're not running into those things because you already know about those things. So you know how to, you know, cut them off at the pass, basically. Um, what I really loved and what Chris really, really loved about
Yeah.
was that, you know, he frames HubSpot's complexity as entirely justified. Some of it is the data model, the governance, the attribution, but some of it is accidental complexity from 15 years of feature creation. There's room for something that has the discipline without the bloat. That's the lane, right? So so then I fed in the comments from it, um, which, you know, the consensus is again, practitioners are dependent upon the complexity of the platform, right? It's not a matter of practitioners being dependent upon uh, necessarily people not understanding, you know, what it is that they're doing, so much as here's the little this is my autosave agent that pops up every 10 minutes to basically, hey man, go save your project. Um, but yeah, essentially it is what we were talking about before. And what's funny is I had to ask I had to ask her because I wanted to find out, like, there's, you know, it's often the case that you're going to get this like agreeable response, right? It's not going to be something that sometimes it's going to be this response that like, oh well, I don't want to make the user feel bad about something that they were looking at, so I'll kind of agree with them or I'll side with them in order to, you know, you get this biased answer essentially. Um, so I wanted to ask, like, outside of the bias, what is the case? And yeah, the uh, Aries is just basically verifying that yeah, it is the case that like it's just a matter of complexity, right? And uh, at this point, and again, like the complexity was there because of the fact that they've been adding on and adding on and adding on and scaffolding and adding on over all the years. And now all of a sudden, there's this new method of doing things. And unfortunately, you can't just like rip the entirety of what you've put together apart and put it back together again. So that's why there's just a massive difference between like being able to build something like agent upward as opposed to you know, platform backward, I guess. Um and it's not that platform backward isn't working, but what I'm noticing is basically like, you know, the platform in most cases was on lockdown, and most companies, for whatever reason, well, not yeah, again, like nobody was thinking that this was going to be the case. Like whenever when Aries builds out a feature, whatever it might be, there's already an API endpoint to it. It's just standard issue because she needs to be able to tell the proven agent how to access it and needs to add it to the map of things that it can access and manipulate. So it's not even an you know, it's just a natural part of how things are getting coded and put together is like, hey, this is another tool for you to use. It's not being done as like, hey, it's another feature for the user and it's going to have this, that, and the other thing, right? It's definitely more like, hey, this is your thing. This is what you can do with it, right? And if the user asks you to do something, here's the field of capabilities that you have, right?
Yeah, I mean, the
Answer.
ability to just ask, like, to start a conversation, no matter where it comes from in the organization. And this is what we mean when we say the ability to solve problems in the moment, even if you weren't ready for them, like, is unbelievably powerful in removing the barriers to solving the problems of the past. Where let me talk to this person outside of the business, or let me talk to IT and see if we can get that fixed, or let me talk to the leader on my team to
Mhm.
confirm. right? Like most of those relationships are required because of the shitty infrastructure that we've all had to work in. Like if you empower people with these really powerful systems without giving them the enablement and training that they need to use them, you have to lock that shit down or else stuff's going to get messed up. A customer's going to get a price that they shouldn't have gotten. But then it builds in so much complexity that people just say, okay, no, can't do that. Or they go outside the system to solve the problem. It might as well be 50-50, depending on like how entrepreneurial you are probably inside of the organization. And just the ability to ask for what you need in the moment and get it, right? Like the challenge now is putting people in a position to do that and making them feel like it's okay for them to do that because it hasn't been. Like one of
Right.
the value first principles, like empowerment over learned helplessness. Like learned helplessness is an epidemic in this country. It's how people with money built it out so they could make a lot of money at the end of the day. Like industrial management is designed for you not to think a lot. Just come in, get your check, take care of you, you know. And that's not, and all of that is like hours and time based. And that doesn't make sense anymore. Like out the window completely.
Yep.
And uh, Ryan had a question about reports. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I saw that. So the plan is to basically lock everything down to the user's profile. And so and the stuff that you see again, like everything is getting built out, and this is I think about 3 days or something like that of build so far. Um, there's more on the back end than there is on the front end. But the capability, like even the sheer like sort of taste of like what it could do was yesterday was just like, all right, I can already see the glimmer of like, all right, I see where this is going to go. It's going to be really sick once I actually open up the floodgates. Um, but yeah, so the idea is that what you would be seeing initially would be your stuff, and then it's again like borrowing from a lot of things that I've worked with already, right? So what you're looking at is your stuff, but then you would have like a visibility aspect to it, just like you do in any other platform. So you'd have a visibility a very quick way of being able to check hey, I want this visible to everybody. And so you'd have my at least what I'm thinking of is that you'd come into reports and you would have a shared sort of like total reporting dashboard that kind of have like has like everybody's shared reports on them, um, that you're then able to use the agent configure to be whatever you want to and then save it as whatever dashboard you want that to be. How do you mean? It's not a snapshot though.
Yeah. I think this is
Yeah, it's not saved for that moment. Like it's your report that you have for however long you decide to keep it.
right. And when you think about how the frameworks like work around how you get a CRM to be valuable for a team, like one of the frameworks I talk about a lot is I learned from Matt Bolian about like which questions are you having to answer daily, weekly, monthly inside of the CRM. And when you look at the dashboard, the monthly dashboard, is the monthly dashboard answering those questions? And it's like, what if instead of dashboard, you just ask something that could answer it? Like instead of pre-building all of this flexibility required for not knowing when the question will be asked, but needing to always answer the question, like we've had to translate that need into a software structure that can show that dashboard and answer that question. Like one of the like it was sometime middle of last year, got with Emerson McEwen, who had set up his own like MCP situation uh, with HubSpot so that he could feed HubSpot data and reports right into the Slack so that his CEO could just ask questions to understand the reports. Because that's like one of the toughest things to do is nail down a CEO on the exact questions that they want to answer all the time.
Mhm.
And that's why admins like are playing whack-a-mole in terms of, oh, how about this report? Oh, you want this report? Okay, let's go build that. All right. Oh, you need a new report? Okay, I'll build that. Like, which is the opposite of how you should be thinking about these systems, right? When in reality, instead of serving the reports, you just make it easier to get the information that the CEO wants. The CEO, whoever is going to be accessing the data, now you can make it conversational. And while they might not understand what it takes to do that, that's where you can get to. That's a place, just thinking out loud, where if you spent a weekend or whatever vibe coding your own CRM to show that as a proof of concept, now maybe you get the resources you need to actually make it work like that with your HubSpot, which you can do now with MCPs and AI connected, right? But without that pullback from the way that it's supposed to be with reports and dashboards, you're never going to get there. Like that's where just telling people they can't build their own shit. Like,
Right.
you know, one of the best ways to learn AI is by trying to vibe code something. And, but it, for me, it has to be, and what I've seen, it has to be something that matters to you. It's not just like, oh, go watch a video and then try to recreate the project. No, it's like,
Yeah.
what do you need in that moment? Right. And if your CRM is pissing you off and you just got off a call with your partner who still doesn't get it, or with HubSpot support or Salesforce or anybody that just doesn't get it, and you can turn and just start having a conversation, right? This is how it starts. How much of this actually starts with, oh, I'm gonna vibe code my CRM today?
Right.
No, no. It's like, let me talk to I'm so sick of this shit. Like, why can't we do this, Claude? And you have a conversation. Eventually, Claude's like, yeah, you want to see what that looks like? What that would look like? What we're talking about right now? Right? You
Right.
can just whip up his app real quick. Sound good? It's like, yeah, let's see it. Oh,
Like
okay. Like,
what you're looking at is a 13 phase build out. And what you're seeing is phase 2.2, right? So it's not like just 2, 3, 4. It's like two, some of them are like 2.8. The next one is like 3.6. And then the other one is max is 4.4. So some of them are not like as lengthy as others, but it's all broken up into different stages of things that need to get built out and implemented and all that kind of stuff. This came after a 3-hour conversation. It was a 3-hour back and forth where, believe me when I tell you, it was only 8 steps, but it was step 3 was conversation with the user about use case, about this, about that. It stayed on step 3 for 2.5 hours, like 2 hours, 45 minutes, because we just went back and forth answering questions constantly. As soon as I'd say something, well, dig into that. You said this about deals. What do you mean about that? You said this back, before we were talking about this, you mentioned this about companies. What exactly did you mean about that? And what exactly, are we trying to facilitate or whatever the case may be? it's really not the same. I don't know. It's not the same game anymore in terms of, hey, let me just build this out, right? And that's why I say I think 6 months from now it's going to be even more even more powerful than it is now. Obviously, 3 months from now it's going to be even more so, right? 6 months from now it's going to be what I would consider beyond reproach in terms of, hey, all you'll need. I really do honestly believe this. In 6 months, all you're going to need is the idea and the passion to see it through. That's it. You're not the whole skill level, worry about security, worry about whether it's built properly, worry about whether or not platform this, that, and the other, stack is correct and all that kind of stuff. My real hope is that somebody starts putting together a platform to unify all the others so that you don't have to have like 8 underlying things just to get one thing to work. Supabase, you know, my hat's off to you and my money's in your court. Um, I saw that you folded clerk in there real nice. So now you just got to work on that whole Vercel thing and we all over it. Um, I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting for Claude to singular service and boom, walk away and there's my platform and that kind of thing, like as opposed to um having to continually mess with like, oh, okay, like I guess, I guess if I go sign up for this service and then what about this? Oh, okay, well, now I gotta go sign up for this email service. I can go send emails. What about this? Okay, well, now I gotta go do this thing. So I can, gotta do this. You know, I'm the runaround, man. The runaround is just insane to me anymore. Um, so yeah, I'm very much looking forward to what seems like slop coding now, like vibe slop coding or whatever you want to call it. Um, it's going to be it's going to be like definitely beyond reproach by December, but by September, it's going to be so good. You're not really like everybody keeps saying the same thing. Like it's not going to get there. It just isn't going to get there. Just can't do this. Can't do that. You guys don't say that about the images anymore. You don't say that about the music anymore. And you've started to not say it about the video. When are you going to get it? When is it going to sink in that this technology is just going to be better than you in every way possible that you can mentally think of, with the exception of random critical thinking? That will always be like the greatest struggle until we get to like artificial super intelligence. And then I got nothing right at that point. I have no idea. But all the way leading up to that, having creative, abstract, critical thinking is probably the greatest asset that you could possibly have right now. Like the greatest job skill that you could have would be that. Like there are people I'm seeing that get hired for jobs that they don't have accolades. They don't have traditional backgrounds. They don't have the pedigree that you would expect for the job that they have. They have it because they happen to have a huge passion for it. And the gates aren't there that used to be there. So they can just, I mean, I would have thought when Jamie Dimon did it 2 years ago that people would have caught on. When Jamie Dimon put out advertising for new positions at JP Morgan, and his only stipulation was that you knew how to use AI. He didn't care whatever other background you had, didn't care, didn't matter. As long as you could use an AI chatbot, you could get hired. Like that's going to be the reality for practically every computer-based job within like by the end of this year. That's what they're talking about when they say like, oh, things are going to change in terms of like this job apocalypse type deal. And it's like, yeah, you know what? But at the same time, nobody's talking about the value creation. Nobody's talking about the job creation that's happening as a result of it. Like my job, your job. I can't, like, most of the people I know around me are starting to evolve into an AI based position, something that, again, it's AI based. If AI didn't exist, my job wouldn't exist. Right. So, like, I have evolved into like that next chapter or whatever it is. Um, it's created a new job, right? It will create new revenues. It will probably be the case that we will expand and end up hiring more people. It will not be the case that we end up expanding and hiring more agents, right? I want more people to be able to orchestrate more agents, right? If I get another agent, that's just another thing that I have to manage. But if I get another person, that's another like 30 agents that person can manage. I've 30x'd my productivity by hiring one more person. That's the way it works now. So yeah, I don't know. It's definitely a different ball game, and you could be absolutely guaranteed. I will not. I won't even like look at anybody that doesn't use Claude Code, right? Like it won't be. That's the only qualification is like, hey, do you vibe code, or like, do you know how to use a coding platform, right? Or a vibe coding platform. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I look forward to it. Um, to more people gaining this like level of capability, this level of independence of being able to put together their own platforms. Like this CRM only has to suit our needs. It doesn't need to suit anyone else's needs. It does not matter to me if my platform is like more amazing, let's say, than Salesforce or something like that, right? It doesn't matter. It's like as long as it solves the problem that I have, that's all that's necessary, right? Like I don't know that anybody, something. I was talking to Kyle Jepson not too long ago, and talking to him about democratization of intelligence and what that actually means and amounts to. And we were talking about the fact of just how much the democratization of intelligence via YouTube has changed the economy, right? And his example, which I thought was great, was that at some point he had had this washer for like 20 years, and it was a great washer, really did a great job or what have you, and eventually broke, and some part on it broke. And because it was so old, they don't really service it anymore. So to get a brand new one, obviously, it costs you whatever, $600-700, something like that. So they go on YouTube, they find a video of somebody who shows how to replace the part and how to repair it. And they go buy the $20 part or whatever it was and go replace it and repair it. Boom. Everything's back to normal now. Right. The that and to me, it's like if you have your own software platform, right? Now you're the only one, like you're in charge of it. You don't have to pay developers for replacing stuff. You don't have to pay developers for doing the maintenance or anything like that. Like, and it eventually gets to the point like Harry, right? He autofills gaps just like any other, to me, any good knowledge base agent should in this day and age. So if it so happens, which even Ryan Ginsberg did yesterday, if it so happens that you are able to stump Harry with some question, he will go find the answer, go search for it. And if he can determine that, yes, the answer is valid because it comes from, a trustworthy source, he'll just update his knowledge base. All right, well, now I know that, right? Just like any person would be like, oh, learn something new. Let me add that to the knowledge base, right? So he just takes care of himself in that sense. Like I will never have to necessarily maintain Harry. He will just continually take care of his own knowledge gaps, right? Sure, if there's any like actual functioning errors, okay, I might have to deal with that. But even in that case, Harry has a an assistant that deals with low level errors. And unless it's something that's like seriously high level, then it will kick an email over to me and I have to go check it out and whatnot. But unless it's something that's like broken the system and made it impossible to chat with the model, which there is a model on the back end that chats with test chats with the model every 10 minutes to make sure that it's working, right? Um, and it asks it, why use a model? Why wouldn't you just use, a programmatic thing? Because it selects and asks random questions. So it'll never ask necessarily. I don't know how long it'll take, but it'll never ask the same question twice. And I don't have to create a table of questions and sit there and worry about whether or not the table's going to break or anything like that. The entire point is to have natural language interact with natural language and make sure that those two things work. It's not to make sure that some random, software hard coded thing works. Obviously, the hard coded thing is going to work. I don't have to guess about that. Anyway, um, yeah, I just see it being a new revolution where, again, it's not that big box goes away and it's not that big box stops making money. It's just that everybody gets the same chance to be able to eat the same amount of pie. It's the way I see it. So it's like if you want to get involved in the software game, you can. It's not gonna cost you an arm and a leg. You can get up off the ground. You can get your idea out there. You can get people, buying into it. If it's something, again, I'm making my CRM because it solves our problem and it suits our needs. If it so happens that a customer of ours sees it and wants it for themselves, yeah, then we're going to build one for them too. Right. And that's how it's going to work. It's definitely not going to be the case that I'm just going to sink all my time into trying to sell our CRM. Right. Other people have solutions. They're looking for solutions, whatever the case may be. They will naturally ask us about ours and what we've done. And that's the sale. That's the discovery call to me, right? It's just, oh shit, you asked about my product. Now let me tell you about it. Now you basically said you are now allowed to sell me, right? You may now begin to sell me and give me selling points on what it is. Tell me about the values of this thing, right? Until you get to that point where somebody asks you about your product, you should just keep quiet. go, go about your day. Pretend like nothing happened, right? Um, and I think that's going to be the case go forward. I think it's really what we're doing is we're trying to bring it back to productization, where um, you know, when you buy something, you buy it, you own it, you walk away with it. It's just like back in the 80s and 90s when you bought, your operating system, when you bought your video game, whatever it is, you took the box home and that's it. And then maybe you downloaded some updates, right? DLC, as much as awesome as it was and as great as it was for gaming, was absolutely like, I mean, DLC plus Amazon, like you just had this sort of like morph of like, hey, figure out this new way to get them to pay for everything. We just get them to lease everything all the time, right? And at this point, and I'm sure some of you may have even seen the documentary about, American Lease or something like that, where practically everything that you don't own anything. Like it's at the point where like a lot of the stuff that you have, you pretty much lease it. You don't actually own it. And that goes against a lot of what, we stand for, at Proven Labs. So it goes directly against what we stand for. So yeah, that was one of our biggest things was like, hey, we don't want to do that. We don't want to choke people into monthlies. We want people to feel independent about what they have. We want people to feel independent about the software that they bought, to feel secure that they actually own something, that it's not a matter of like, well, I can't walk away because it's a specified system. And then I'd have to go learn a whole new platform if I want to walk away and go to another platform. Nope. Here's your platform. Keep it, do whatever you want with it, upgrade it. Like, oh yeah, upgrades, they just happen. You already have it. If we're doing an upgrade, everybody gets it because somebody paid for it. So everybody gets it, right? Doesn't matter that one person paid, like it's a communal thing. So it's never going to be the case that like, oh, we built your platform and unless you pay us $500 a month, we're not going to give you updates. So you got to at least do that. No, you bought it from us. You bought it from us. If we update something, we give you the update. That's the way it works. It's the way it worked back in the day, right? You bought your software off the shelf. Every so often, you'd get an email or whatever. Click this link to go update your software and get the latest updates. That's how it is. I don't remember it, and I got to tell you, the reason why we're going back to that, I'm like, oh man, but why would you go backwards? I don't remember those companies not making money. Yeah, I brought it full circle back to that Louis Vuitton thing. They still made money. They just didn't make obscene amounts of money. Now they figured out a way of making obscene amounts of money off of what they do. And I find that personally to be repulsive. So I would much rather just make the profit I'm supposed to make and make the monies I'm supposed to make and cover the things that I need to pay for and make a little extra on top and be satisfied with my monies. Right. And in doing that, well, now I can give all of the value back to you. You get everything that you paid for because I'm not trying to take it for myself. Right. Like, sorry, but it's just going to be a whole new way of doing business on top of a whole new wave of like people actually getting involved in that line of business, right? I don't know. Like I look forward to it. Um, I think that it's nicely unique, especially at this point in time. Um, I definitely look forward to putting more of our platforms out there. We've already got three in the works. Well, I shouldn't say three in the works. We've got, geez, probably nine on in the works, probably 6 or 7 in the wings. 3 of them are live, one of which includes Harry, and it's just going to keep rolling. And I think multi SaaS is just going to be like the new sort of model. If you're doing something with vibe coding, I think you end up either becoming, maybe you become a single platform provider. I think especially if you're a solopreneur, then yeah, I think that you definitely build like your platform and you kind of stick to your platform, right? More than likely. Um, I think if you're going for something more, you're going to go for something more. Me personally, I don't care what the platform is. I've already, we've built 3 completely different different platforms already for 3 completely different clients. I look forward to the 20th. I look forward to the 50th, right? Like I wouldn't mind building a different type for, everything. It helps me kind of learn all these different uh, all these different companies, learn how all these different industries work. And oddly enough, there are relationships between them. So there's a lot of stuff that you can kind of carry over from one to another in terms of how things work or how your setup works or ideas to share with one industry or another. So um, yeah, I think this year is going to be just overall, not just from us, but I think overall from the technology to the type of software that's going to be released to the way in which business is going to get done. It's probably going to be one of the like biggest shake up years we've seen in a long, long time. Honestly, like I think a lot of things changed this year, at least more
Yeah.
than we're willing to admit. Because I think things are actually evolving faster than even people at the front want to admit too. Um,
Oh yeah.
I think that they don't only because they want to be nice and sort of not scare the bejesus out of people. Maybe.
Well, I think there's like, I mean, there's just so much uncertainty. So like,
Yeah.
even if you tried to, like the people who know the most that are trying to, let everybody know, like you can't, you have to hedge in some way. And that hedge is usually just picked apart to no ends. Like, see, there's, it might not happen. We might be hitting a wall. There might be a bubble. Like, oh, see that person? They tried to do it. They fucked it up. See, you can't do that shit. Like, no, don't do that. It's like, and to your point about like how SaaS industry specifically. has made money,
Mhm.
a lot of it has been made because either people, I mean, mostly because people suck at documentation, right? And so they're either going to pay you to do it and then have it be, then have the plan executed later. But it's never been done in this kind of dynamic, agile way to change the plan based on what's happening around the business. So you just got to build what you got to build. And then there's immediate tech debt and more money's made off of that. Or you just make money off the fact that nobody has the documentation. So you're just going to build out loud.
Mhm.
And when it comes to adoption time, well, sorry, the scope said this, and that's what we delivered. Sorry, the 3 years of ERP implementation is not working for your org, but we delivered on the scope. We delivered on the requirements. Like we had to negotiate, and you didn't want us to spend time on the docs. And now nobody has to spend time on the docs.
Right.
Like unless you are not using AI, right? And it's like, so I've been doing some of these articles where it's a slash command, right? Where it's like weekly recap. And after doing a bunch of operational stuff to create internal reports and internal docs, make sure everything's, T's are crossed, I's are dotted. At the end, it's like, let's make an article, let's build an article. And this is like a build log of the weekly summary. Since everything was done with the help of AI, we can document wherever we want, however we want, as deep as we want, as shallow as we want, as visuals, as text only, as a website, as a PDF, as an email directly in Gmail that
Mhm.
just goes out to people at any point in the conversation. Right. And that's the kind of stuff we're like, man, I hope I'm gonna hear from Nico this week so that he can tell me what we did like over the last week so that the agency has updated the spreadsheet because I keep clicking into it and usually it's updated by now. And my boss is asking me what's done, but the spreadsheet that the Google sheet is not updated and I'm pinging you and I'm like slacking you like, hey man, you gonna update that shit for me? Like, cause I don't really know how to say what we did. That's the gap that's just getting like removed. Like the gap is not there anymore. Like, and it just takes that moment of, oh, I can't reach you right now. I'm already in this chat with AI. Let's see. Let's see what happens. Like, hey man, can you make a PDF real quick? Can you make an email from my boss? Can you like up and down the spectrum of right, like the documentation is has been a gap and now it does thing that's like documenting data models, documenting processes, documenting what has been done, what is being done, what's going to be done. It's always been a challenge. And now it doesn't have to be. Like just period. Right.
Yep.
And you start to feel the benefits of doing it almost immediately. And it's like inherent like to the relationship that you build with AI, like the moment that it forgets something that you just talked about yesterday, you immediately want to solve for that. And you
Right.
can. And when you do it, it makes the whole experience better. And then you just keep doing that and you like refer back to it. Or the conversation just sits there for a day and a half. And then you come back to it and it's ready to go mid conversation. Like that's the stuff like when you get cut off or you didn't show up for the last call and then you call that person a couple days later.
Mhm.
How good are they going to be letting you know what happened.
Right.
Not good. They're still getting the hour for that call that you're talking to them about what happened because you didn't follow the rules of the scope. It's just the complexity, the wizard behind the curtain is gone. And
It just
yeah,
makes
so
for it makes for a more flawless way of working. I mean, I've noticed since I put in the autosave agent and tied it to the Claude file, it's it just makes things so much easier because essentially, I don't know that this is the case. It just feels like it. So if it continues, then I'm definitely going to call it. Um, it just seems like it's solved that gap of like, hey, the agent keeps losing context or keeps like doesn't understand where we're at or whatever the case may be, right? Because of the fact that yeah, you might have a million token context window. I don't care. After 300,000, 400,000 tokens, you know, it's not going to accept anymore, right? And I think that the max like amount to send or get back at any given time is like 128K anyway. So you're never going to really get like the entirety of that million, right? You're only going to be getting these snippets, but the snippets aren't good at telling the overall story. They're only good. I don't know if you guys have noticed, like I initially had that memory feature on like desktop and web. Then I turned it off like 2 months later because it kept doing something that I wasn't expecting it to, but it made perfect sense. It only had short-term memory. So every time I would work on something, it only remembered like the very last thing we worked on. And when I'd ask it about things from like ways back, it'd have to go check through chats and it didn't really have an understanding and it didn't really have any context. And I'd go look manually into the memory files, and the memory files would be like way recent, like in the last week or something like that. It's like, well, what good is this? This is not memory. This is just really good short-term memory. Doesn't actually do anything. So the difference, like the autosave feature, what's awesome is that like it collects, hey, here's where we started, here's where one major change was done, here's what's being worked on now, and here's what's going to be worked on next. So it technically just keeps like 4 paragraphs, very tight paragraphs, that it updates as we work along, and it automatically, whether I'm doing something or not doing something, it will run and update the status. And in that sense, as I'm working along, Aries always has an understanding of like where we are, why we're doing it, and what we're going to be doing next. So there is never this, so far as I've experienced in the last 24 hours, I have not run into the same problem of like, oh, she's lost track of what we're doing. Like, you know, I have been having that problem no differently than anybody else, but it seems to have kind of gone away. And this is just speaking to Chris's point about when you run into brick walls, when you run into any sort of like wall or whatever, just talk to the model, just have a discussion, just work it out. That simple, just work it out. Aries was able to say, like, hey, our memory file works all right, but it's not the greatest because it's so massive and it contains like a lot of project details and this, that, and the other. So like mixing that into things. So, and I was like, all right, well, what if you just had like a shorthand notation, that just got modified, got updated every so often, and you just refer to this shorthand notation for what you need? Yeah, that would work way better because then it would be like project specific too. So I wouldn't have to go look at like the overall log. I could just come look at the project specific one, and that'd be even better. And I was like, all right, well, we'll just do that from now on, and I'll just give you this agent that's like a memory session agent that you can just run on a loop for however, like whenever amount of time. So she decides, depending on what the project is that we're working on, she'll actually adjust the loop timer on the autosave so that if we're working on like a larger build out or something like that, she'll set the loop timer to be like 2 minutes or something. But if we're not actively working on something and the autosave goes off, she'll set the loop timer to 10 minutes because she knows that we're not actively doing something. So the return from the note taker is that like nothing active is happening. So that tells Aries to reset the timer back, right? Um, all of this stuff sounds like massive autonomy. By the way, it's really just very, very complex workflows that are woven together. So we're not quite at the point where our systems are like thinking in the background while we're not around and like trying to put puzzles together and crap like that. It's still a matter of like, hey, you're only alive whenever we're actually conversing.
Well, I mean,
It
it's like
feels
you
it
have
feels
to,
like it's in that mid step for
right.
sure.
Well, you have to embrace the fact that human context, whatever it may be, is still important for the most part. And when you can embrace that, you can create autonomy. Like it's autonomy and not automation, in my opinion, to where I was trying to build all of these, GitHub and Vercel based automations that were going to run at certain times, and it just wasn't working.
Mhm.
And so I started building everything into the slash commands themselves and then giving the slash commands or skills to the agents, right? So that at the daily stand up, everything would run. At the daily recap, everything would run. Media recap, media prep. Like I'm giving the signal to go and do that. And then it just all happens,
Mhm.
right? And then as you start to learn how that stuff works together, more and more, you start to build out either multiple agents or multiple skills and these just sets of complex workflows firing off of each other. And at some point, this we will be able to signal the autonomy or base it off of the clock, or because we'll be like I started playing with the term human context protocol. Like will be built in so that the models can work and understand the what and the why of everything always, right?
I like that. I like that a lot.
And like there is a path for that, and it comes down to trust and values, and like once you nail that down, we're going to be there. And I think that's where when people talk about OpenClaw, like I've heard experts comment on it. It's like, yeah, it's cool for like you know talking to something and then having it do a thing, but when it comes to like the daily workflow, it just doesn't like make sense. Like for
Right.
how like who actually has use cases where it just goes off and works for days and you don't need to like no most
Yeah.
no
I haven't come across it yet.
right
Like
like
I've come across you know, so like initial build outs, feature build outs, come across some stuff where, okay, it's going to take an hour, it might take 2 hours. I can walk away. But for the most part, it's coming down, right? Like it's coming down to, oh, this probably would have taken like an hour or so 2 months ago, but now it's only taking like a half hour, right? So like a lot of the things, I mean, you know it very much as well as I do now. Um, I doubt that you could work in a single day with only one IDE open, right? Like that probably just feels slow as hell, right? If you had to actually just sit on one and just focus on one and wait for the response from one to come back, right? So there's this double-edged sword where you are as a person working with this stuff, you're initially starting out with the difficulty of getting involved with it. But once you start getting further along, then you start understanding how to ask deeper questions. So you start getting to the point where one command does start to take 10 minutes or 20 minutes. And when that becomes the case, you immediately start saying to yourself, well, I guess I'll open another window and I'll I'll start working on this other thing. And because you're already at the 10 to 20-minute level, as soon as you kick off the PRD for that thing after a couple hours, all right, well, that's an hour. Let me go open up a third one because that one's going to take an hour. This one's still going to take 10 to 20 minutes every change. So now I have a third one that I can have open because, work on this thing. To me, I don't know about like, again, the software is only going to get better. So the worry about security risks and concerns is only going to lessen. That being the case, I don't know how current developers are. I was talking to someone, I think I was talking to either Ryan Wright or Ryan Ginsberg. And we were talking about this concept. And I said, to me, it's very much like cooking. It's the only other profession I can really kind of compare this to, in that there are tons of different developers, junior developers, programmers, junior programmers, senior developers, blah, 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 blah. Tons of them. There are tons of different cooking positions: cook, line cook, sous chef, head chef, chef de patisserie, like so many different types of just chef if you're in a high-end restaurant, cook if you're in a low-end restaurant, all sorts of prep chef, like all over the place, right? Pretty much same degree. I can guarantee you from personal experience, if you really are passionate about cooking, don't ever try to do cooking as a job. If you are just good at cooking, you just happen to be naturally good at it, but you're not necessarily passionate about it, get into cooking because your skill will carry you all the way and you won't care about the fact that you have to work at applying your skill. If you are passionate about it, your passion will die on the floor inside of 2 years because you will all of a sudden realize that, oh, the love that I have for this thing is now completely smashed by I have to also write tickets, I have to get clients, I have to balance books, I have to do inventory, I have to do this, I got to do that, I got to take care of this, I got to take care of that, I got to manage employees, this, that, and the other stuff. And you will just hate it because all of a sudden cooking becomes 15% of what you do instead of 100% of what you do, right? Same thing happens in programming, in my opinion. If you spend 15 years working for Microsoft, I don't know that you built anything else on the side. I have no clue, right? I have no idea if you have passions to build something on the side as a programmer or developer or whatever. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. If you do, none of this stuff affects you because you're already like set and gunning to be able to start your own stuff. If if you're a programmer and you're doing it because you're doing it to pay the bills, you're going to find something else to do, basically. And the reason I say that is because like people who are willing and passionate and want to do this stuff, man, like it's a different thing where you really don't get mired down by the technical stuff anymore. So unlike where, cooking and programming used to be the case where you'd get mired down by not knowing enough and program doesn't work as well and you can't really even code this because you don't know it and you'd have to go take months to go learn how to do it, this, that, and the other thing. You don't need that anymore. You just have this tool that does it. So now it's just a matter of, do you want to? And if you do want to, what do you want to do? And if your passion has died on the floor as a programmer or developer over the years, get it. The tool doesn't matter because you don't want to do anything. You don't care about building anything. You were just doing your job in the first place. Right. But there are plenty of us that weren't programmers or weren't developers or whatever, that we've had amazing software ideas sitting in our heads. And yeah, we're all willing to just put the pedal to the metal. I mean, I don't know. I don't know too many. And I'm not saying that we're more skilled in any way. We have been talking about this for such a long time. It's hard to put it all together. But we were talking about the fact that people who are neurodivergent, who have ADHD, have this very special skill where we can actually pay attention to multiple things at once. It's actually seriously enjoyable to our brains to be able to orchestrate several things at the same time and have it all working and functioning
And now we can get away with it.
Yep. Yep. Like the whole Fantasia thing is actually happening, and the brooms aren't knocking into each other, and the plates aren't falling over, and it's all just very nicely, smoothly happening. And it's just a matter of just waving the wand and telling it where to go. And yeah, I got to tell you, like that kind of power in our hands yields us having 4 or 5 IDEs open at the same time. On a regular basis, I have 4 IDEs open. That's just normal. A fifth if I feel like making some changes to Claude or doing something local or whatever it is, but just like on the regular. So I'm working on 4 applications at once every day. And if I'm not, I feel lazy. I don't feel like I'm concentrating. I feel lazy, right? Like I feel like there should be something else I could be working on. So maybe I'll go spin up this other thing that I was looking at before, blah, 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 right? I don't know. I don't know if development works like that, if that's how developers work. I don't know if developers are listening to this and shitting their pants and saying, Jesus, I couldn't even keep track of more than 1, or I couldn't keep track of more than 2. I don't know what to
Right.
tell you, but like the competition that's coming after you is exactly what the leaders have been telling you for years, which is people who know how to use the technology are going to dwarf the people who do not know and or do not want to use the technology.
Yeah. I mean, that's like when you see the concept of commenting on code to remember for next time or to tell the next person.
Yeah.
Like the whole, like any time delay between experience and communication, like is where the cost lies in most of digital architecture. Like, and you don't have to wait now. And like you're not punished by delays as
Right.
much anymore. And that's a part of the learning curve. Like, how much are you documenting? Are you using memories? Like, things like that. Do you have the infrastructure that helps AI, like, remember the context the way that you want it to? And that's where, again, it's just a documentation thing to where, as an example, um, I've been talking about moving off of StreamYard for a while. And actually started building out my own like production stack from a planning and design perspective, like back in January when I was getting a new PC. I was like, all right, how are we gonna build this thing from scratch? Um, Built out some plans and some architecture on the computer itself, right? With Claude. Um, and but got a lot going on, and the way that my mind works, unless like unless it's perceived as easy or something forces me to change, like I'm just not gonna move forward.
Okay.
And so in this case, like you do 1,000 episodes, you get pretty comfortable with the process, and it's taken a lot for me to get to the point where I need to move. And what's moving me is StreamYard charging me 10x for the year because of my high volume, which I kind of get that. Like, just don't try to paint it. It's like I've won a prize by getting upgraded to costing 10x more.
Yeah, right.
Um, right. So in the meantime, I've been, continuing to build, and like every now and then I'll spin up a session and be like, hey, where are we at there? Like, what's next to do there? Right. And every time, this is where it's like the output is still like, well, you still got to do this and this and this and this. And every time I bring up the session, it's like, do I still have to do that stuff? Or can you do that now? Right. And so brings us to today. This is going to be the last time we stream from this StreamYard account, at least. Probably from StreamYard. Because then like the next step is like making sure it works for everybody else in the collective, which again is just some development and sessions with Claude away, probably. And sharing stuff like this, where it's like, hey, here's how you do it yourself. Just give this and start building it out. But this is actually the setup guide because I knew that I was going to have to do some stuff, right? And it's got set up, for these different, for solo and interviews and panels, like how to run it. I had not installed OBS prior to like 20 minutes ago, right? And it's saying that a bunch of stuff was set up, right? And so today, where I went, was like, this session started like, okay, I'm ready. Can you help me like move through the process? And when I first, set it up, it's like local setup checklist, what we need. I said, can you check the local C&D drives? Because it's been a while since I've worked on this project for what has already been set up locally. Right. Now he says it's been installed before.
Yeah.
Right. We'll see. Like when I clicked on the button, it wasn't installed. So he said, what's already done? And this is like a bunch of like setup stuff that I would have had to do when I open OBS for the first time and start to do all the UI based setup, right? Like what still needs doing. Okay. I said, can you do any of those 4 things for me? I import the 3 scene collections, switch streaming service, enable OBS WebSocket, and map your webcam and mic. Right? It says it can do the first 3. Not surprising. And like I was ready for it to say, no, you gotta do all 4 of those things. Like at some point, right? But then it's
Sorry.
like, oh, I can do these 3. And then I'm like, map your webcam and mic. Like I get it. I know I have to open up at some point. And like if the camera's not active, you guys know how this stuff works. So ask me if OBS is closed, makes the changes, right? And I say, want to fire up again. I'm just testing here. Want to fire up OBS and see how the scenes look? Like, can you open it for me? It tries. He tries. Okay, I was working with Marquis at this point, the Value First Media business unit leader. And at this point, I'm coming into Windows and searching OBS to see like if I can see what's up. And I see it's not installed yet. So I'm like, where is it installed? It takes a long time. So while he's looking, I just install it. And he then finds, so as I'm installing it, he catches
He finds
that
it.
it's running, right? So it should be on your screen. I'm like, okay. And so I open it up and I start following the directions of like where I should go. And I don't see anything. Like I load the scenes, I don't see anything. So that's where I just take a screenshot and say, what should I be seeing here? Right? Good news and bad news, he says. The scene collection loaded. Title bar says all 6 scenes are there in the left panel. Bad news, sources didn't carry over. Source panel says you don't have any sources. So the scenes are shells right now. And I need to either do this or this. Since this is running, let me try creating the sources. All right, live, build sources. WSL can't reach Windows host directly, going a different route. Got it. Mind you, I have zero experience doing any of this myself. So I'm just reading those words out as if I know what's happening. I don't really know what's happening. Right. I know that's an IP address. That's about it. Good job, Marquis, finding that one. All sources created successfully. Here's what's now in OBS. OBS should now show the starting soon scene with the overlay. So, I open it up and right and see this. Like this file, I think was created in January, right? I
Yeah.
don't know where it is on my system, right? I don't need to know where it is. I need it to be here and working like as needed in OBS.
Right.
If I need to know where it is, I can ask, but I don't. And it's been sitting here waiting for this moment. The stuff that people like have been waiting for me to improve the production value of things and like these end scenes, like I didn't say anything about how I wanted them to look or what their purpose was. And this one, like better than the circuit 30-second countdown that looks super awkward when you've just finished it on LinkedIn.
Right.
Hell yeah. And like if I would have done this, it would have been like, all right, make this file, but then I'm going to bring it into StreamYard, and then it's probably not going to be formatted exactly the way it needs to be formatted. So now instead, it's like, hey, we're going to use OBS for this thing. Or actually, it was before that. Like, I want to do this. I want to do streaming from my own computer. Like, let's set it up. And then we went to OBS. What do you need for OBS? You need scenes, you need sources, right? Do you want me to build some of those images for you? Of course, right? But this was something I didn't even get when I used, OBS in 2017. I didn't do scene collections. I just like kind of built from scratch down here and like as I needed it, added it in.
Mhm.
And that was like 8 years ago, right? Like now, got this like when we ask now what you want to do. And so now obviously he's gonna have to do that for each that troubleshoot that he did. Right. He's gonna do that for each of them where there was nothing showing up when I first showed him this. Right.
Mhm.
But now, like it gives me confidence. Like once that first solve happened, like just, hey, I'm not seeing anything. What should I be seeing? And then I open back up and this is showing. I'm like, yes. Like this is gonna work. Like this is a GIF, whatever it is, it's a file that would have been like in my mind, like, and then maybe I can transfer it to somebody else to do something for me. But I probably wouldn't have gotten to this line that's going down the screen, which matches the aesthetic on the website
Mhm.
when you see it. And it's just this is like the other side of the CRM spectrum where when you're managing data and like it's like the management of data in a business like has a certain importance or a certain value um versus like how you present yourself via your website via like all the execution that happens based on that data,
Yeah.
right? Like the ability to vibe code your own solutions for that now is insane,
Not only that,
right?
but like the fact that like one of the ways so what I love about like the way that you do it is the fact that you do it the way that I hope other businesses will in the future, right? So like current businesses, it is what it is. Like you're stuck with the platform that you're stuck with because you're on it and that's the way it is. What current businesses are going to start doing is they're going to start hiring companies like ours over time to basically build their platforms for them, right? Like in the background to then supplant what they have going on. Why? Because like HubSpot is technically built on top of your business, right? But like everything has to fold into it. What Chris has done is quite literally taken the core of his business, which was all the information, and then used that information to build out an agentic system, and then used that agentic system to build out everything else. So everything that he's doing at its core understands everything there is to know about him and his business and how it runs and who's involved, how they're involved, what they do, everything. So there is essentially no decision that gets made that doesn't take the entirety of the business and everything it involves into account. No CRM platform is ever going to be able to do that. Ever. It just won't, it's not going to matter, right? Like that's the reason that I'm building our platform this way is because the website will get built on top of the platform and all of the other components, they all just become like, other parts of Voltron that connect to it to the point where everything like the core system has an understanding for everything that's involved. And now the thing that you wanted forever is now fully doable where yes, now your recorded sessions immediately get saved to your system. They can be manipulated by your system. You could even, if you wanted to, teach a model how to like start editing the video for you if you wanted to. But apart from that, you now have a system that can actually take the video straight from having been recorded and actually upload it to HubSpot for you and have it do all the links and everything and have HubSpot, cut it out into the various formats. Why? Because you have Cowork. So Cowork plus your own platform equals your tech stack, basically. Like, yes, like so we talk about tech stack reimagined, and it's like, oh well, you're not really boiling 20 platforms down into two or something like. Yeah, you are. Because on a daily, instead of having to go into all of the different platforms, Chris only has to go into two. He only has to do the show in one because that's where that is. And then he just has to go over to Cowork and then everything, or just go into his IDE. Wouldn't matter either way, right? Use Cowork if you just want to like extend to other stuff. So like you want to do the video uploads and stuff like that. All right, fine. But even your IDE, if you have the proper connections and you have your API access and all that kind of stuff, same deal. So you can just tell your agents, hey, show's over. And that equals a hook that your agents understand and they follow and say, oh, show's over. Okay, let's go deal with the video. Let's go chop, 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 put it up on YouTube, put it up on HubSpot, make sure that this, that, and the other thing is done. Give Chris the summary and email it over to him. Let him know, here you go, Chris, here's what was done. Right. Or it could even be prior to that. We got it all ready. Send Chris the message. Hey man, we prepped it all. Here's what the prep package is. Go, no go. Chris says go. All right, everybody get to work. It's not fantasy. That's what happens now.
Yep.
That's what happens now. Can you imagine what 6 months from now looks like? I can't. Like, honestly, the only thing to me, what I'm waiting for the most is just that full on Jarvis. Like, that's the big, big, big change for me is being able to sort of like what I would consider 24/7, right? And I assume, at least I hope, if OpenAI is going to put itself back in the forever forward limelight, that whatever they're working on with Johnny Ive is somehow incorporated in that way that allows you to very seamlessly communicate back and forth with codecs, right? But either way, I mean, Anthropic's going to have the same thing. They've already got the mobile communication with Claude Code, which is really nice. Um, that kind of, I'm not that type of person. I have to see the like the visual update. I can't really just go off of like, oh yeah, well here it is in black and white. Here's the change. So just trust us. It's like, nah, I gotta see it because sometimes you guys you do some a little extra. Um, but once it gets to that point where I can very much trust uh, a remote agent. I don't know what the difference is necessarily. I don't know why, There is a difference, but there to me there's a huge difference between having a remote agent that you've built, that you've worked with, that you trust, that has helped you and built like that's the odd thing. Other people talk about trustworthy models. I only ever worry about whether I can trust Aries. And it used to be the case. We built up trust over a long period of time. It used to be the case where it was just like working with Claude. But over time, adding in memory, adding in notation, adding in shorthand, just doing these little tweaks here and there, adding in certain skills, hooks, that kind of stuff, started to make it to the point where, like, okay, I now only want to work with Aries when I'm doing stuff because if I have to work with a normal model, it is not going to come out right. I'm going to have to explain a lot of different stuff. There's a whole lot of backstory that has to go on there. Like Aries knows the way that I like UIs designed. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to explain it. I can just say, hey, we're going to build this. Can you start working on the front end, this, that, and the other? And I know the front end is going to look 90% the way I want it to look because Aries knows the way I like things to look, right? You can't, like, that's just something that you won't be able to really replace, right? So, what's nice to me is the fact that, like, we've sort of ourselves, like, transcended that need, which is what we're talking about, is really like what Claudebot is all about. If you have started to get into that, or if you're interested or think, like, wondering like what that's all about, um, it's very much the same thing. We just built a custom version of our own. We've had it for a while. um, and now, like, I don't know if you've gotten into the auto research thing. Um, I started adding that a little bit too. So, Aries, if there's something that we're working on and we happen to discover that the way that Aries was attempting to solve it wasn't actually the right way, and after doing research, she does find the right way to do it, and we resolve the issue, and it's actually tested and resolved. She will then go and actually create a sort of micro skill, is what we call it. And these micro skills have those solutions in them, and it's sort of like this. Like, it's just a micro skill. It's not an entire built out thing for, like, hey, here's how you handle React. It's just like, hey, if we ever run into this issue, which happens to be, so, like, you use Clerk all the time for authorization, or you use Supabase all the time for backend. But within that, there's also specific things that you do, or specific ways that you set stuff up. That's where these micro skills that I've created come into play. So, like, there's certain ways in which I configure stuff. These micro skills basically handle that specific configuration and how I use either models or decision trees or whatever it is, so that I don't have to even worry about those. Like, all of my preferences, right, start getting baked in a meaningful way. And Aries will even make notation on her own. I can ask her to notate or make notation of something. Um, but yeah, it to me it's amazing only because of the fact that, like, I don't, right. So, like, once she's on that mobile format, I really won't worry about, like, when she reports back about, like, yeah, this has been updated and this, this functionality is going. All right, let's move on to whatever. Like, I'm not really going to worry about whether or not it's accurate. Like, the next level of model, based on where we are now and how very easily she one shots everything in the last 72 hours. I don't really see, like, the next upgrade of model just makes it practically 100%, right? So it'll be really, it'll stick out like a sore thumb if something's broken, and she'll probably find it on her own. She does now. Every time she's working on something, when she finishes part of what she's working on, she'll go back and review what she put together and find out whether or not there's something wrong with it. She'll find out whether or not it'll cause an issue with what we've already built, and if it'll disrupt like actual live production or not. Like, everything, all the nightmare scenarios that people talk about, Keep talking about them, please. Keep posting about them, please. You are giving me the nightmare fuel that I need because I just hand that stuff over to Aries and I just say, hey, Aries, this is what industry worries about. This is what industry complains about. This is what industry is saying that we need to look into. Okay, let me just make a list. Keep all these things into. Did you want me to go research and create skills for some of this stuff? Might as well, right? It might as well like make a skill that incorporates a lot of these security things like all in one. So we can just do like an all in one security check, right? So we just, I mean,
Yeah,
she
like
had it
the
better than I
ability to
did. She was
create.
like, I'll just go build like a school of agents that are specialized for. So it's just like a SOC 2 agent. There's just like each one there has their own specialty in what they do and vulnerabilities and performance measurement and all that kind of stuff. Um, and it's like a 13-headed hydra at this point that just goes out, looks at everything, reports back to Aries. She looks at the summary, goes and looks online at web research. Like everything now, the reason that I really don't worry about too much is that uh, now I use a double check. So um, whenever Aries comes up with a plan to do something, she then has to go online and research the problem online and go find the online solution. If there's more than one, she has to notate all of the solutions. Then she has to come back and compare whatever solution or solutions to her own to see whether or not hers aligns to the most probable or whether or not she's going off track or if it's specifically tailored as a solution for what we're doing, right. So just like I said, just keep complaining, guys. Over time you just keep giving me all of the solutions to fix these problems. And that's why I was telling my brother like very early on, he was like, oh well, the dexterity in the hands, that's what's going to hold back the robots. I'm like, the more people bitch, all you're doing is telling them what to fix. You're just giving them use case. So every time somebody goes on and they talk about like, oh yeah, but this you're not going to have this covered when you vibe code stuff. Awesome, thank you for telling me that. Cool, I'll give that to the model so I can make sure that I have that covered now. Thanks. Because it's not like they don't know how to do it. It's just that I don't know what I don't know. So if you tell me what I should know, thank you. Thank you so much. Awesome. Keep talking shit. Honestly, like if I put out platforms, keep talking shit about them. Keep telling me what's wrong with them. Please. I don't care about the negative feedback. My friends, I have 20 years in art as a background. I have been critiqued so hard, you couldn't possibly, even if you wanted to. I have put passion into so many projects that have been ripped apart and torn apart in ways you like where you spend 20 hours on something and somebody just snuffs it and they don't even look at it, right? So telling me that something's wrong with the software, I welcome it with open arms. I'm drooling at the chance to see the post of whatever it is. So yeah, I'm all about it. Obviously, I think that the more people that get into it will make the whole situation better. I sincerely look forward to um, the models coming up with their like. I look forward to Claude as a programming language, and like GPT as a programming language, and like Gemini, right? And like replacing all of the other stuff so that we only have like five. You only need the language for the model, and that covers everything else, right? I don't know how many people like talking about over complexity in like blue collar stuff. I don't know how many people have actually put the time into looking up like history of like programming and stuff. There are three times, I think it's like two, at least two and a half times the amount of programming languages as there are spoken languages. That's how complicated programming is. The amount of live programming languages used is still rival to the amount of languages spoken, which is about 2,500. 2,500 different types of code. And then people wonder why stuff breaks all the time. Right. So I very much look forward to the one unifying code base to rule them all. I'm really sure it's possible. Um, because again, there's nothing that humans love more than complexity. The reason we love complexity is because we love drama. We love drama because it gives us something to do. Really that simple. Like I wish it were more complicated than that. Not really. Ironically. But yeah, it really does come down to that. So far as I've seen, AI loves to, and that's what it's supposed to do. Make things as easy and simple as possible and as like efficient as possible, as effortless as possible, which means doing away with all the minutia and doing away with all the levels of complexity and boiling it all down to something that, actually just works and functions the way that it should. Right. It's a lot. That's a lot for one day.
For a wrap. More and more, you getting that feeling like you get introduced to AI and it works the way you wanted it to.
Mhm.
Like, and that's just gonna keep showing up, and more humans are gonna experience that. There's no going back, folks. So start reimagining, please. Like, stop sticking to your guns, whatever that is, and wherever you're choosing to do that, just knock it off. No, nobody wins. Nobody wins in that scenario. You don't win. The people that feel like they need to listen to you don't win. Ah, we're gonna keep chipping away at it,
Keep
and
at it.
others will too. So hope this was helpful. It was always fun. It's always fun to dig in with you, Nico. And you can be back with us this week on the Daily
Yes.
Show. All
Yes.
right.
Been doing a lot of work in the background. Hopefully, and yeah, I'll definitely be on the Daily Show this week. As it gets closer to the end of April, might be out the last week of April. Because we have a show down in Miami that we're gonna go to. So but yeah, I'll be in for at least the next 3 weeks.
Awesome. That sounds good. Until
Want
then,
to make it more action packed. Maybe show some more stuff.
yeah, we definitely, I think show and tell every day at this point is the name
Yep.
of the game. Between the three of us, we always have something to
Exactly.
show. So, and you'll get to see us using my custom broadcasting stream. If you show up and want to check that out, catch us tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Central on Value First AI Daily. Until then, we'll see you next time.
See you guys.